Hello everyone, we're back once again with another live streamed rock, gem, and mineral show. We have all sorts of stuff to show you guys. We have crystals, fossils, gems, all sorts of stuff. So just to kind of give you guys a rundown of how we do this, we're going to be showcasing all sorts of different minerals and stuff, and whatever's on the screen is going to have a price. So if you see something that you like, just drop a comment in the comment section below, put it in the live stream chat, say I want that thing, message us on Facebook, Instagram, whatever you have us on, and we'll get you your order prepared. So I guess let's just get right to it. We have a lovely flat here of cool minerals. We've got some opals I think we're going to start with. So we got a couple customers wanting some opals lately. And in regards to opals, we have a handful of boulder opals. Not a lot, but a handful. The first one I'm going to show is a rough cut boulder opal. This one here is, well, they're all from Queensland, Australia, but this one has more like blues or greens in it. As you can see, we're like looking at some sedimentary rock, right? So this is probably some kind of jasper that the opal is in. Usually opal does form in jasper. And opal is a hydrated mineral. That means that it has water in it. So you need to have some kind of water activity coming on, like so hydrothermal activity, so superheated mineral-rich water coming up from the inner earth and kind of depositing some minerals. So in the case of boulder opal, we're looking at a lot of like very old sediment, so this is probably some kind of jasper that this is in. And inside the cracks of the jasper, the fractures, this, once it's been heated, it gets cooked. So almost like clay, how clay gets cooked and it hardens. The jasper cracks and creates these fissures that the water will kind of soak in through and move through. And this water is very mineral rich. The consistency of it is like sludge or slurry. So we're talking like lots of like silicious, stuff going on. So silica is going to be in this water, copper, gold, platinum, nickel, all sorts of metallurgical ores, all sorts of stuff. So if you have some hydrous rich silica being deposited, that's your opal. So it doesn't occur all the time, especially like this beautiful coloration as we can see here. But it definitely, when it does happen, it's just phenomenally beautiful. So these are all from Queensland, Australia, and boulder opal is pretty sought after. It's very expensive too. This specimen here is $110. So as you can see, just that little bit of color, that fire will make a big difference. In fact, most of these are pretty expensive. So that's something to keep in mind when you're buying opal. The more color or fire that an opal has, the more expensive it's going to be. So I think we're going to move on to our next one here. Again, that's $110. This next one, I think what we'll do is we'll go up from quality here, maybe. Let's do this one. Now, these next ones are polished. So they've been, with lapidary wheel, they've been polished and cleaned. So this is something where you can actually really see the true color of the stone. Notice how you have this opal layer on one side, right? So the opal is actually depositing in these fractures. And what these miners will do in Australia is they'll break these pieces of opal, this sedimentary rock, these fractures, they'll break it along the fracture. They'll split the fracture open, and inside that split you'll have basically a couple like sides that you can choose from. Basically the opal is split down the middle pretty much. And so the matrix rock that it's deposited on will become the backing, and then the opal is just displayed on the front and polished and all nice and beautiful. So as you can see, there's lots of fire in this one. We have reds, greens, blues, all sorts of color in here. This one right here is $120. As you can see, the quality is definitely, significantly higher than the rough cut. The rough cut is kind of nice to see how it forms in nature. Me personally, I actually do like just the rough the rough cut, but you know, I'm a geologist, and that's not everybody likes that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, again, this is $120. And just take a look at that color in there. Absolutely beautiful. All right, we're gonna move on to our next piece here. This next one, I think we'll look at maybe this one. This one has a lot of color in it. It's a bit of a different kind of display here. We have a thinner matrix backing. This one's 95, so this is probably our most less quality one that we have. But still, look at the color in there. We don't notice how we don't have a lot of reds anymore, right, compared to the last one. So having that red coloration in opal is actually quite rare, especially this kind of opal. More common than not, you'll find lots of blues, greens, and purples. So just to keep, be aware of that. The most common boulder opal color is going to be green or light blue. And then the less common colors are your dark purples, your reds, your yellows, oranges, that kind of thing. These are very, very cool. Now, notice too, again, look at that thin line there. That's how much opal you have. The rest is just matrix rock, right? Again, this is 95. So it's like when you're mining this stuff, you don't really have a lot of opal to deal with. Imagine if you are working with this, right? If you're polishing this up, most often, than not, you'll actually grind right through the opal. And it will fracture, and because it's a hydrous silica, right? You have this hydrated, basically hydrated silica. It doesn't even have a mineral structure at all. So it will break conchoidally, and it will fracture. And if it gets too dry, then it will crack apart. And so opal is a very finicky stone. But yeah, just working with this stuff is definitely a challenge. But this is very nice to set into something, set into a pendant or whatnot. Alright, we're gonna move on to our next piece here. Next, we got our next of the quality. I think we're gonna end with our highest quality opal specimen. So this next one is actually kind of cool. I don't know if we have a lot of reds in this one, but we have a lot of opal material. So this one's $185. And this one was actually featured in one of our Instagram posts. There's a lot of opal material here. You can even see the stratification, this fluid flow. See those layers in there, those lines. So really kind of giving you an idea of the fact that this is actually created via hydrothermal processes, hot water flowing through rock. So that is evidence of that. Yeah, it looks like we have a little bit of red down here. Some greens, of course we got the beautiful blue, right? That classic bright blue color. And then on the other side, we kind of have a little shimmer right there of green. Very, very pretty. And notice too, depending on where you are, right? Wherever you position the stone, different colors will kind of pop out at you. Kind of a neat effect. And remember too, so the reason that opals have fire in the first place is because you have, of course, the gem acting as a window to let light through, right? Light comes through, shines through the stone, and refracts, splits, and we see it back at our eyes as a certain color being split apart. So either red or green or blue or purple or whatever it is. Now the specimen here again, 185. So this beautiful boulder opal specimen. It's kind of interesting. I get a lot of people asking, "Oh, do you guys have any opal?" And I say, "Yes, we do. We have boulder opal, and it's very expensive. And it doesn't matter if it's boulder opal or not. If it's real opal, it's going to be expensive. A lot of people don't realize that until they ask. And especially too, the more for example, we have common opal. Common opal has no fire at all. It's just like a color, basically. So we have pink opal from Peru, and that material, again, you know, it's very cheap but has no fire. When you're paying for opal, that is what you're paying for, that fire right there. All right, we're gonna move on to our last one. This one's probably the most beautiful. It's also the most expensive. Has a ton of color in it. This one right here is $195. This is probably our most beautiful opal specimen that we've ever had. Take a look at that beauty. We have all sorts of reds. Remember, red is the rarest color you're going to find in boulder opal. Take a look at that. Absolutely beautiful. Yeah, you have like a whole spectrum of colors here. You have greens, you have like a lattice of red, green, yellow, even blue, purple. You basically have the whole rainbow here. Now, this is also, again, in the scale of quality, right? This would be considered I guess these would all be considered like AAA specimens, but if you were going to like compare it to other opal specimens, there are some that are like well over like $1 million that are way more beautiful than this. So just to kind of give you an idea. And this one right here, $195. Again, we still have that same kind of interesting. I actually like the matrix that it's in. It's kind of beautiful. But again, look at that color there, right? Absolutely beautiful. This is already flat lapped, so this would be nice to set into a pendant. A lot of these specimens too would be great for pendant pieces. So, you know, if you want a really colorful, beautiful opal pendant, this would be the way to go, I think. Surprise your mom for Mother's Day. Yeah, get her one of these. This is something that's timeless, and also too, there's not an unlimited amount of this stuff either. One day, all of it's going to be mined. Think about that. Once it all goes away, this is like an investment for the future. So, oftentimes when things like deplete like that, gems or minerals, usually the price skyrockets, like by about between 5 to 10 times. Grape chalcedony, for example, another beautiful kind of mineral, right? Used to be very, very cheap, and within the course of a year, it became depleted, and it became so expensive. It became so expensive, in fact, that just to get a flat of it was like a couple $100, even more than that, maybe. Even getting a couple pieces would be a couple $100. So, just to kind of give you an idea of how fast that can change. So, if you have anything like this at home, well, definitely keep your hands on it, because it could be, one day it could be, it could put food on the table for you. You never know. All right, we'll move on to our next series of mineral specimens. Those were all of our opal specimens that we have, our boulder opal. We have lots of common opal again, but again, boulder opal is so well known for its fire and stuff. I just love it. It's really cool. All right, so I think next we're going to move on to some chrysocolla and turquoise that I have mined. These are all specimens from one of my favorite mines, and its location is secret. You can easily look it up in a book or something, but it is a really nice place. I'd recommend spoil the fun for people. So I think let's move on. Let's actually start with our smallest specimen here. So there's a mine on the border of Nevada and California, and it's kind of on the way to Las Vegas, right off of the 15 freeway, and there's a ton of beautiful copper carbonate material. So that means malachite, turquoise, chrysocolla, azurite, so lots of blues, lots of greens. There's a bunch of old copper mines out there just along the border. There's also a lot of weird geological stuff too. That's when you're getting into your basin and range geologic setting, right? So that basin and range is that stretching and compression, right? That for people who don't know, Geologically speaking, there was hundreds of millions of years ago, there was a massive plate called the Farallon Plate that almost got completely subducted underneath the North American plate. And as it was subducting, it was compressing the continental crust of North America, and it squeezed it together. And then, after it became subducted, the spreading zone, where that Farallon Plate was, between the Farallon Plate and the Pacific Plate, it also got partially subducted. But because it's a fault boundary, you can't really subduct a fault boundary, so it just turned into a transform plate boundary, which is what we know today as the San Andreas Fault Zone, along with all of its other sister faults and everything, like the Rose Canyon or San Clemente, that kind of thing. So once you had that compression stop, the continental crust was able to relax. I know thinking about rock relaxing is kind of interesting, right? Well, that rock actually, over the course of millions of years, it actually started to stretch back out again and flatten back out. And when it did that, it started to fracture, and it started down dropping as it was stretching. So whenever we have that down dropping kind of thing, right, we call that a basin and range, or Horst and Graben geologic setup, right? We have we have these Horsts, or these mountains, with Grabens, which are valleys. Those are two German words. And each Horst, or mountain range, is delineated by a fault line, or a fracture zone. Now, along all those fracture zones, you have a ton of hydrothermal activity. You have lots of superheated water, lots of reservoir water that gets heated, comes up, and as it comes up, it dissolves things like precious metals and minerals, and that water will evaporate and precipitate out all sorts of minerals. It'll precipitate out gold, it'll precipitate out platinum, mercury, all sorts of weird stuff, uranium, and you end up having all this stuff kind of deposited along these fracture zones, right? So where this is found on one of those fracture zones, one of those many, many fracture zones. And in this case, there was lots of copper deposited. So, going back to this, right? Right here we have some beautiful turquoise here on this beautiful, kind of like, it's almost like a cooked, like rhyolite, or kind of like some sort of sedimentary rock here. But you kind of have like ribbons of like turquoise. That bright blue material there, that's chrysocolla. Chrysocolla isn't really a copper carbonate, it's a copper silicate mineral. So it's like copper and silica. That, again, think about the opal, right? Hydrothermal deposition. So again, chrysocolla is going to be a copper silicate, and then your malachite and your turquoise and your azurite, those are all copper carbonate minerals. They tend to be a little more chalky in texture, kind of like talc. So again, that's kind of like how these guys formed. But I've gone out there many times, and more times to come, hopefully, and mined this material, and it's a blast. So this guy right here is $14, kind of cheap for like raw turquoise, or raw malachite, or whatever you want to call this, kind of like a mix of everything. Usually the raw material, since it's kind of rare, especially when it comes from North America, tends to be quite expensive. So this is a pretty good deal for this kind of stuff. So next, we're going to go into our next one here. This one is a $20 specimen. Same stuff, we got a lot more chrysocolla on this one, kind of like on rhyolite. Now this is actually from inside the mine. So the mine is actually itself, it's like nestled in a valley. And this valley is littered with like tunnels and pits and shafts and all sorts of stuff. Adits, which is just a horizontal tunnel. And it's just littered with all sorts of tunnels. When I went up there, I didn't really see much. I went up there going up this valley, and I was like, you know what, there's nothing here. I was about to turn back, and then I saw this bright blue streak in the mountainside, and I was like, okay, well, there's something here. So I went up the mountain, and there I saw a huge vein of chrysocolla in the mountain, like a couple feet wide. I have pictures of it on our Instagram. It is just breathtaking. breathtaking. But seeing that in like a stark like contrast compared to like a brown desert, the desert is beautiful, but seeing that bright blue streak in just like an otherwise kind of brown and kind of, you know, otherwise lifeless desert is just in a very stark contrast. So as we can see, that bright blue is that chrysocolla. Notice how it's a little shiny, right? So notice how it shines kind of light. That is the light reflecting off of the silica. Now the lighter blue, that is your turquoise. If we turn this around, we can see that there's a bit of like a cooked or hydrothermally cooked rhyolite or some sort of granite or diorite, but it's completely saturated with copper, as you can tell by the color. But yeah, this material is absolutely beautiful. Just the color alone can just amazing. But again, this is $20. We're gonna move on to our next specimen here. Our next one, let's see here. I think we're gonna look at this one right here. This is more of a solid chunk of turquoise and some chrysocolla. As you can see, it's kind of like the first specimen that I showed you guys. Still kind of like, you can definitely see it's copper saturated, that bright green color, blues, that kind of thing. So we're talking again, you know, very copper rich area. Now this kind of material here, this may notice is kind of like a little porous maybe, it's a little roughed up. That is your copper carbonate material. Again, notice how this stuff right here, that bright blue is going to be your chrysocolla. Now this is real like turquoise and malachite and azurite and chrysocolla I'm showing you guys. If you ever see somebody selling really bright blue stuff like this and it's kind of all polished and lumpy, might be halite that's dyed. It's not turquoise. You find that a lot in gift shops. We actually have a couple of those pieces, and we call them what they are: howlite, turquoise on howlite. Basically, it's just howlite that's been soaked in a copper solution. But yeah, no, this stuff is really cool. What's kind of cool too is that this, like all this material, I mine this not too far away from the town of Prim. If you guys are aware of what Prim is, where it is. It's basically like the first casino that you hit before you get into like Nevada proper. It's like right on the border, and cheap rooms, you know, so a good place to stay if you're out rock hounding around that area. A ton of cool things to mine. This next piece here, again, that last piece was $25. This next piece is $30. Now this is probably one of my favorite pieces. We have a ton of this material, but because it is in limited supply, I am only releasing a little bit of it at a time. So yeah, but just take a look at that. This bright blue, look at that chrysocolla. This came from within one of the mines, one of those tunnels. And you know, again, I do not suggest or condone going into an abandoned mine. I always go with somebody else coming with me, with all the proper equipment, that kind of thing, all proper tools. So just because you see a hole in the ground doesn't mean you should go in it, unless you know what you're doing. It's kind of neat too to see these little vesicles, right? There's little pockets in there. That bright blue right there, the bright blue chrysocolla always stands out. Really pretty. Alright, this piece again, $30 from California, right on the California-Nevada border. Alright, so we're going to move on to our next groupings here. So it looks like we have some tourmalated quartz points here. I believe a couple of you might have been interested get to it, right? So I'm going to show these in order of price. So I'm going to start with the cheapest first. This is a $22 tourmalated quartz point. These are all priced by how much tourmaline is running through them, and also the quality of the material. So we have a couple of different factors here determining the price. So this one's 22. And as you can see, this quartz is actually like pretty opaque. You can't really see through it. Only a kind of like a glimmer. Yeah, there we go. So as you can see, we got some rods of black tourmaline running through here. This material is from, I think it's from China, actually. A lot of this, the tourmalated quartz, actually, I think it's all from China. You find this kind of material bordering these geologic structures called pegmatites. So, you know, we're thinking about, like, you know, okay, a Pluton, this massive, giant little globule of magma percolating up through the crust, right? And as this thing goes up through the crust, it's kind of like working its way up, and then it will slowly cool. If it breaks the surface, it might become a volcano. If it doesn't, it will become a Pluton. So we have this globule of magma, right? It takes millions of years for it to cool. Millions. And that's a long time for something to cool. So because it has so much time to cool, there's a lot more time for the crystals to form. So there's a scale, right? We have the scale of heat and pressure and time. And if you cool something quickly, right, it's going to have no time to generate like a really fine, really detailed or large crystal structure. So if you cool something quickly, you will have no mineral structure. You won't have a lot of crystallization, no large crystals. But if you cool something over the course of a long time, if you increase the time that you cool something, you're going to have your large crystal grains, like your massive pieces of quartz. Your black tourmaline is one of the first minerals that will start to come out, that will start to form in the pegmatite. The pegmatite is like the center of this Pluton. And the pegmatite is mineral rich. It has a ton of gems. That's where you find emeralds and sapphires, all sorts of things. Blue tourmaline, black tourmaline, for example. And tourmaline is going to be growing in rods, radiating out from the center of heat. Sometimes that center changes, but the rods are going to be pointing to and away from the center of heat. And that's because as the Pluton is cooling, it cools from the outside in. And so the crystals are actually kind of growing towards the center of heat very slowly. That's why they're oriented that way. So moving on to our next one. This is our $40 black tourmaline quartz point. This one's a bit more gemmy, a lot more rods of tourmaline. Take a look at that. It's kind of neat how the quartz acts as like a little silhouette, like a mist or a fog, covering up a little bit of the black tourmaline. You can still see it running through the crystal. I really like that kind of display. Now, you may be noticing too, right? These aren't natural points, obviously. These are all cut points. Now, the reason for that is because this material comes out in a massive way. So we call this we call it massive rough. What that means is that there's no individual crystal points. It's just one whole massive structure. So this might have been a huge block of quartz at some point, just kind of sitting in the crust. And it was broken up into many different pieces, and then each piece was cut very carefully and polished to make it look like a point. In my opinion, pieces like that are, I mean, they're pretty rough. It's hard to see the true beauty of the stone. At least polish it, right? But if you want a really neat display, the point is very good. Also, too, in the metaphysical community, black tourmaline is great for just dissipating, diffusing negative energy. Great for blocking that kind of stuff. And the white quartz, the clear quartz, just amplifies that effect. So it's kind of like a neat little combo. And also, as a point, points are basically focusing shapes. So the point is a focuser. And something that not a lot of people really know is that quartz crystal, just quartz in general, it vibrates on a certain wavelength. And this is scientific fact here. It actually generates its own electromagnetic field. So it actually generates some like a small, very small electrical field. Now, this is why quartz crystals are actually used in things like watches or computers or lasers, things like that. They're focusing crystals, and they are actually, because they generate a small electrical signal, it's kind of neat. So yeah, sure, go right ahead, share away. But yeah, I really kind of like this material. I think we're gonna move on to our next one though. This one's $43. Again, same material. And this one is really pretty. We have a lot of really clear quartz here. Look at that. A lot of like spidery, splintery quartz, black tourmaline running through here. And what's kind of nice too is that this is still kind of opaque at the center, but it's still clear enough to where you can see through it. Take a look at that. You can see my the silhouette of my finger on the other side. But just take a look at that. These, like, again, the more like clear they are, the prettier they'll be in like a windowsill or something like that. These are very, very pretty. Yeah, I just love this kind of stuff. So technically, in this case, yeah, the tourmaline would be considered like an inclusion, right? Because it's included in quartz. And as you can see, we have like black tourmaline running everywhere. You may notice though that a majority of black tourmaline is growing in a certain direction, right? So again, not all of it's going to be growing in the same direction, but the majority, you want to look at the whole piece as a whole, right? Most of them are oriented in the same way, and that's just because the center of heat, you know, they're all trying to just grow to that center of heat. Whenever you're out in like nature and you see black tourmaline, look for that. You can actually find the center of a pegmatite or a pluton if you look at which direction the tourmaline crystals are pointing. It's like an arrow, a big flashing arrow. In fact, in our local mountains, the Peninsula Range, we live in San Diego, California, that's where we're based. We have this a bunch of plutons in the Peninsula Range, Mount Laguna, Cuyamaca, and I've gone out there many times for geologic field courses, that kind of thing. All right, Lisa, we will put it aside for you. And just going out there and like actually seeing this stuff in person and figuring out like where the center of the pluton is, that is just really cool, really fun stuff. Some people think it's boring, but that's okay because more for me, right? All right, so this is another one, our last one in the series. This is a $45 one. This is the most massive one that we have. We used to have more of these. It's just, you know, of course, you know, we can't really, you know, go out and buy a lot of material or mine a lot of material because of the pandemic. So hopefully once it's all settles down, I might be. So again, this one is just really massive. It's big. It's a bit opaque, but we have lots of tourmaline. So it's kind of like a mix of everything, but it's really big. It's massive. So this would be a great thing to like put in your altar or your mantelpiece, that kind of thing, on your desk. Want to tell all your cool friends at work, like, hey, you want to see something really neat? Very cool. All right. So next we're gonna move on to our next step. Here we got some I think so these are quartz crystal points from Arkansas. Some of the best quality quartz in the world comes from Arkansas. I can't say enough good things about that place. Yeah, I mean, it's in the Arkansas quartz belt. Kind of the quartz belt actually in the country does run through the Bible Belt. It's quite interesting how that works. So this all comes from a mine called the Coleman Mine, and again, this piece is $26. The Coleman Mine has some of the best quality quartz in the world, right? So let's kind of go over it real quick. So this mine has been in a family for generations. They produce quartz points, quartz clusters, the size of cars. They have these massive quartz crystal clusters that come out of the mine, and they have these big frames with mattresses for padding. Like, seriously, like, look it up. The Coleman Mine, Coleman Mine Clear Quartz, Arkansas. You will see some of the massive pieces that come out there. We've been buying their material for quite a few years now, and they're awesome. It's a family business. They've been in business for generations. Some of their quartz, in fact, has been used in things like electronics, that kind of thing. Some of their pieces are actually displayed in the Smithsonian Museum and many natural history museums around the world. So when you're looking at a piece of Coleman quartz, it's you're looking at like high quality quartz. So one thing that we noticed right out the bat here, we have this massive point here, right? Look how clear it is. You can see right through. On the back, we also have this beautiful tiny little quartz like cluster here, right? Just kind of growing on the point. So that just indicates some recrystallization going on. So that's pretty common for the Coleman quartz. Oh man, that sucks. Yeah, we had a couple trips planned too, that got canceled. Very sad. We'll turn ourselves up here.
Yo, what's going on?
All right, hopefully that's better. So, going back to this piece, again, $26. Coleman quartz is beautiful. It's high quality quartz, and finding quartz crystals like this, difficult. Very difficult to find for this price, right? I mean, this is a pretty good price for a point like this. In a crystal shop or a metaphysical shop, you'd be talking like, maybe 2 or 3 times this amount, maybe, which is, kind of sad. Now this one's really cool. Looks like we have some manganese deposits on one of the facets. Those are those tiny little dark spots. They're tiny dark crystals. We got some nice inclusions going on here, some microcrystalline fractures. Again, those microcrystalline fractures, let's talk about that, right? So people say, oh, I really like quartz with the rainbows in it. Alright, cool. That's awesome. But the rainbows are just a characteristic of the fact that it has microcrystalline fractures. So I shouldn't say any, but most silicates, when they fracture inside, it's just another surface that the light can reflect and refract off of, right? So basically what that means, right, is that if the crystal itself acts as a window, each facet is a window that lets light through. Imagine each little fracture is like a mirror. So that light gets reflected and refracted and bounces around inside this thing. And so when you see a rainbow inside of a crystal, that just means that there's a tiny little fracture in there that is refracting that light. Very cool. Ooh, geez. We may. I'd have to check. We might. All right, Sarita, we'll put this, put the $26 one aside for you. Alrighty. Again, that was a $35 quartz point. Now, I think let's look at. Okay, so I know that citrine and amethyst is like a pretty big hit for people. So we're gonna move on to that next. But first, before we get to that though, I want to kind of get these out of the way, because they're pretty and they're cool. All right, so these are some of our aura specimens. Now, aura quartz. Aura quartz, the quartz crystal is real. The coating is man-made. Right? So a lot of people will see this kind of stuff and they're like, oh my god, it's like crazy how the earth can make something like that. It is amazing that the earth can create these beautiful crystal points. Not the coating though, right? So this coating right here, this coating is a product of vacuum deposition. So again, this piece here, that our aura points, these are our angel aura. These are both $39 each. And now, just taking a quick look at this, right? As you can see, the whole point here is kind of covered with this stuff. Now, what is it? This is actually platinum vapor. So that's a metal vapor that has been deposited on the surface of the crystal. Not only has it been deposited, but it's basically a permanent coating. It cannot come off. You can't, like, unless you started grinding it off. But it's a permanent coating. It won't come off when you rub the crystal or anything. And basically, this is the idea, right? The idea is that by doing this, you're adding qualities to the quartz. In the metaphysical community, that's what that's all about. So the different coatings, the materials that are put onto the crystal itself, affect the metaphysical quality. Now, the way these are manufactured is you have basically a standard quartz point, just like this, without the coating, obviously. And this point is put into a vacuum chamber. Inside this vacuum chamber, all the air is sucked out, right? And then whoever's making this pumps in a metal vapor. Could be gold, could be cobalt, could be platinum, could be nickel, could be titanium. Whatever it is, that vapor is going to start coating any object inside of the vacuum chamber. So it creates this like molecule thin layer of coating just over the surface of the crystal. And that thin layer, depending on how thick it is, will determine how shiny it is, what colors there are. The colors come from the oxidation of the metal. But let's say, notice how you can still see through this, right? Which is pretty neat. That means that the coating is rather thin. If I couldn't see through it, that means the coating's pretty thick. Kind of interesting to think about. But that's how those are manufactured. Usually they're done, like many at a time, and then you have to go in and flip it over and do the other side. But they're really pretty. They're very pretty in the sunlight, too. All right, next, this is our next Angel Aura quartz point. Now, again, I wouldn't just suggest, having one of these just for metaphysical purposes, right? If you're a geologist, or if you're into rocks or that kind of thing, if you're a collector, having something like this to kind of show your friends and kind of like explain how it's formed is pretty cool, and how it's made. I mean, the whole process, even though it's a man-made process, is still pretty cool. It's a lot of work involved, and the fact that you're putting platinum vapor on it, or gold vapor, that stuff is expensive, right? That's why these points are expensive compared to their size. It's like a precious metal you're putting onto this crystal. Kind of neat. Yeah, look at those growth lines right there. All those little lines right there, those are growth lines of the crystal. Very, very neat. All right, we're going to move on to our next aura stuff here. We got some old 1950s lot coral that's been coated with cobalt. We call this cobalt coral. Now, this material here is $28 each. Now, this is great for like a sea lover or something like that. Someone who's into oceanography, maybe. So take a look at this, right? Now, remember what I said about the vacuum deposition? You can pretty much coat anything. It doesn't have to be a crystal point. It could be anything, right? It could be a piece of coral. So this is a part of the 1950s lot collection. And these were collected prior to 1950. About that time, coral collection was actually banned because it was harming the coral reefs. So, which really sucks. So now this coral is just sitting around in various places, and somebody decided to turn it into a piece of art, which is kind of neat. And I think it's a really neat display of what this vacuum deposition can do, right? I mean, look at all that color. Now, you may think about the name, right? Cobalt coral, right? This is coated with cobalt. As you can see, the coating yields a different kind of color, too. But yeah, just take a look at that. Very, very pretty. It's like almost metallic, right? Almost looks like something you'd see in a video game, which is kind of cool. And again, all of these are $28 each. This is another piece here. This has a little more color on it. I've always wanted to make these into like pendants, I thought that would be pretty neat. Yeah, I mean, this is just really cool. This almost looks like a seahorse too, which is kind of neat. I never noticed that. That's really cool. Or a dog, I don't know. Whatever you think it is. Maybe a cow. Alright. Got two more here to show. This one's really pretty. See if we can get a close-up here. Oh yeah, that color change there. That's really pretty. Now to coat it on all sides, right, that means somebody had to stop the deposition process halfway through and then go in and turn every single piece over individually to coat the other side. The whole process is very tedious. So, besides the vapor that's being used, the process of making these is a pain. So that adds to the price for sure. All right, we're going to move on to one more, and then we're going to move to our amethyst. Yeah, take a look at that. That's really cool. We got some green in there as well. Now we have a handful of this stuff left. I just showed 4, but we maybe have about 10 pieces left, I think. I'm not too sure about that, but yeah, we have a couple pieces left, which is kind of neat. And I haven't seen this material for sale again, so. Alrighty, we'll be here till 3. Alright, we're going to move on to our next grouping here. Again, those are all $28 each. Very, very cool. Alrighty, I'll take the seahorse coral and put it in your pile. Alrighty. Oh, the last one? The last one, again, these are all $28 each. For the coral, the cobalt coral. Alright, let me just move some of these flats aside here. Might as well just do this one. Well, yeah, might as well. Okay. Alright, got a big box of amethyst clusters here. Okay. Oh, this is our last large celestial amethyst point. This is really cool. Alright, I forgot we even had this. I thought we sold it. Okay. Now I'm just going to do a size comparison here to my face. Let's see if we can pull up the... There we go. Take a look at this. This is massive. absolutely massive. Look at the size of that point. It's kind of hard to, like, you know, in the small showcase camera to really see the whole thing, but this is pretty massive. All right, so let's take a closer look at it. It's also heavy, but, you know, I will manage. All right, well, let's see if I can even zoom this out. I'm gonna have to. Oh my goodness! All right. Okay, so this is celestial amethyst, guys. This is massive, absolutely massive. So these come out of the Andes, and they grow in a particular way. So most amethyst is going to be, like, you know, smaller points. You're going to have points that are maybe about the length of 3 or 4 inches at most in a small, like, you know, pocket. These are very massive, and to get a massive crystal, you either need a lot of heat and pressure, and definitely a lot of time to cool. So these took a lot of time. They're very old. Notice how long the point is. This isn't even the end of the point here. The point probably extended out even further than this. Now, what's classic about these celestial amethyst pieces is that they are kind of splintery, right? They have these long kind of points, very narrow at the ends. And these, you know, obviously they're amethyst, right? But all of them do have phantoming. So those phantoms are just growth lines, right? Those are just, you know, like growth layers. In the point, we can maybe even see a couple of them if we're lucky. So see those little dark purple striations right there? Those light lines, see them? Those are phantoms. And most amethyst and citrine, they do have phantoming, but the color is just so rich in this. And again, that's something that's classic for celestial amethyst points. They only form like this in the Andes. They only form like this in mountainous regions. They're only found there. They're not found anywhere else. Nobody else mines these. They're only found there. So very particular to that region. And again, even though it's massive, take a look at the price. $185. That's pretty common for a piece this massive, right? But yeah, again, we were lucky to get even 2 of these large ones. We got maybe a handful or a bag of some smaller ones. But this material here is actually being depleted. There's hardly any of it left now. Which, you know, is kind of sad. That's actually, you know, I think just the human condition. We're just terrible, I think. I think that it's important to respect the earth, and it is upsetting that, you know, people just really want this stuff, and that demand is what depletes it. So, but do not fret, this stuff will grow back, right? It'll take millions of years, but it will grow back. So the earth is not over yet. A lot of people don't think about this too. They don't think about geologic time. They're all about now, like what's happening now. And, you know, to the earth, 1 year is like nothing. There's nothing really changes, really. Over the course of 20 million years, you got some small changes here and there. 100 million years? Oh yeah, that's like a year to the Earth. And a year to us is like 100 million years to the Earth. So, yeah, just to kind of give you an idea. Now, this is an amethyst cluster. Again, these are all from South America. So, first of all, we had that big, huge celestial amethyst from the Andes. And now we have this from Brazil, $64 for this piece. We've got a nice smooth polish on the sides. Really, really nice, really pretty display. Flat back, so you could lay it on its back. You could lay it on many different sides. But most importantly, too, look at this display. You can just prop it up like this and put it on your desk somewhere. This is a nice desk piece. A lot of these amethysts too are just great for, you know, obviously altar pieces, metaphysical work. So, you know, just to kind of, you know, keep your mind about that open. Look at here too. So this is all basalt here, and amethyst and citrine, they both form in basalt, or at least volcanic rock. And that's because both citrine and amethyst, they're very iron-rich minerals. They're basically quartz crystals that have an abundance of iron. And basalt is an iron-rich, magnesium-rich, heavy, mineral-dense rock. And when this stuff, you know, is fractured, you have some hydrothermal water working its way up through this stuff. It gets dissolved and reprecipitates out crystals like this. It's kind of neat. I'll probably move this up here a bit. All right. But yeah, and also too, think about the facets, right? Each individual facet acts as just a mirror, reflecting all that light back at you. So these are very sparkly and very pretty in the daylight. Again, this piece here is $64. Another beautiful specimen from Brazil. All right, we're gonna move on here. All right, till we meet again, Celestial Amethyst. All right, we got a lot of stuff here, so hopefully I can get through it. Okay, so next we have some dark amethyst here. These are all dark amethyst clusters. I think I'll only show a couple of them since we have a lot. So let's get started here. So dark amethyst. Think about the name. It's just a little bit darker than an amethyst you know more commonly find, I guess. Whenever you have dark citrine or dark amethyst, that means it's been irradiated, meaning it's been heated somehow. So these pieces are actually really neat. I think that might be I don't know. All right, so again, these are all $15 each. Pretty good price for these little guys. Pocket-sized amethysts. We call this one kind of like an amethyst bloom, right? Since it kind of radiates out. Look at all those tiny little amethyst points there. Really pretty color. As you can tell, it's a bit darker. And then also look in the side here too. See that kind of like darkish kind of color there on the bottom? That's kind of like a smoky citrine. And that's pretty common for amethyst. I mean, let's think about it too, right? The only difference between citrine and amethyst is the difference of, you know, an iron ion. So, and that's all determined by the heat at which the stuff is crystallized at. And if you have a pocket of amethyst that is right on that transitional like layer, that transitional zone of crystallization, if you raise the temperature or lower the temperature by a degree, it could change the whole thing. It could start growing citrine instead of amethyst. The way it would look to us, though, is that it would be an amethyst point growing and growing and growing, and then it would turn into citrine. So it would be citrine on top of the amethyst, and then it could go back to, you know, amethyst. So that's kind of how they form. Very, very neat. Again, these are all $15. Let's move on to the next one. These are all pretty similar in size and in quality. So, and this is something that you like commonly see. Like this is like a classic, classic gift shop amethyst. If you just want a piece of amethyst, you know, put it in your pocket or put it on your desk somewhere, nice affordable piece, this is like the best way to go. I mean, it's not too expensive and it's really pretty. So you're getting that quality. Very, very pretty stuff. And just take a look at that, how it just reflects all that light. Really cool. Alright, show a couple more here. This one's really neat. I like this one. You have a couple of nice, really big points that are just lit up, and just illuminated. Look at that. Just really bright purple. Really pretty. Oh gosh. Yeah, right there. That is really cool. We even have some rainbows going on in there, right? We got some microcrystalline fractures. Yeah, we got a couple in there. That's actually really neat. Yeah, a lot of our clusters, they have, like, you know, interesting things like that. It's again, like, doing this stream, I know we're doing it because of the pandemic, but it's I mean, we're doing it every weekend now, but it's really given me a great opportunity to kind of take a closer look at some of our specimens. I mean, there's things that I've never, like, noticed before, just taking a close-up look like this. And we have so many things. It's like there's no way, like, I can just, like, analyze every single thing, even though I think I've come close a couple times before we've bought more stuff. But still, it's really neat. I think I'm going to show two more here. Again, these are all $15. Dark amethyst from Brazil. Looks like this one even has a nice banded agate layer around the edge. Look at that. That's really pretty. It's like a layer cake. I've always wanted to get one of those really cool crystal cakes. They're like sugar crystals. I've always wanted to get one. I see pictures of them all over the place on the internet, and I'm like, oh, that would be really cool for, like, a birthday or something. But, you know, who knows? Maybe one day. Yeah, the color in this is just really pretty. Now, kind of interesting fact. The majority of the world's amethyst is produced by Brazil. Brazil produces most of the world's amethyst, like something like 95 to 98%. Doesn't mean you can find amethyst anywhere else. It's a very common mineral. Oh yeah, take a look at that banded agate layer on the bottom. Look at that. That is really cool. Let's see if we can get a close-up here. How close can we get? All right, there we go. Very pretty. Yeah, it's pretty consistent too, goes all the way around. Most of them kind of, you know, peter out. That's really pretty. $15 for this. I might even buy it. Yeah, look at that color. Very, very pretty. Alright, we're going to move on to our next grouping of specimens here. And I think, I mean, we started a little late. I don't know, like maybe 5 minutes late. But I think I will go over past 3. I think that might be a good idea, since we have a lot of stuff we got to go through here. So, let's take a look. I think we have a large specimen box here. Now, a large specimens, that just means that they're absolutely massive, and this is pretty. Oh, jeez. Yeah. Large amethyst clusters. Oh my god. Oh, joy. Oof. God. Yeah. A massive box for massive crystals. Okay. Alright, let's see if we can fit these into our little showcase here. So, yeah, these are massive. More amethysts from Brazil. I think these might be new clusters. I don't know. I think they are. Yeah, I think they are. Okay, so these are like rough cut clusters. One of them has a flat bottom, which is kind of nice. But the first two I'm going to show are more like you're going to lay down on your coffee table kind of pieces. To give you an idea of how big these are, they're all about the size of my head. So this piece here is $160. Again, not a bad price for a piece like this, too. And then also, I don't think there's any phantoming in here either. Yeah, take a look at that. You know, I might even just like sit this down here and get a close-up of it because it is massive. All right, so take a look at that. Really pretty points. Lots of color. And see that red staining there? That's iron. Remember, iron-rich rocks here, iron-rich minerals. So very iron-rich material that this came from. Makes sense. And then we even see, you might even see some ametrine in here as well, if you look closely. So, yeah, I think we do. So see right there, where that kind of like, right next to the point, how it gets like a little less purple and more like orange? That's not staining there. That is actually the amethyst turning into citrine. It's basically reached that threshold. So that just tells me that this was growing, you know, in pretty unstable conditions. You can even tell because of the varying point size that this crystal kind of had a rough time growing. And then, of course, on the back, well, that's actually something you don't see too often. So normally with amethyst clusters, cement is put on the back of the cluster to keep it from falling apart. And that's very common. That black backing, that classic black kind of pasty back for big amethyst cathedrals, that is just cement. And that's needed to actually keep the piece from falling apart. But this is like actually the rough matrix rock that outside, like that kind of like the outer layer of the salt, which is something you don't really see too often. But yeah, again, this is a pretty neat piece. Again, 160 bucks for this guy. Let me try to figure this out here. So we got another big point here, or I should say point, cluster of points. All right, let's see here. So this one does actually have a flat back. Again, size comparison, right? Another cluster the size of my face. This is, again, a very massive cluster. This one's really nice. It actually has more defined points, and it has a massive calcite crystal growing inside of it too, which is really cool. That's actually common. You can, you see that often, but the crystal itself is really pretty. I guess I'll just show you guys. All right, let's take a look. All right, this piece here is $240. You can kind of see why, right? It's, again, massive and heavy. A lot of these are priced by weight. So because the material is very common, unless it's a very rare kind of formation of it for some reason, it would be a little more expensive. That would factor into the price, but these are all priced per weight. But yeah, just take a look at that. I mean, all those clusters in there, all those points, and we have this massive calcite crystal, right? That's that white crystal there. And that too even has some interesting crystallization habit there, which is really neat. And there's also, if you look at it in the right light, there should be some light refraction in there. Yeah, see that? That rainbow? We got a microcrystalline fracture in there, refracting some of that light. Yeah, this piece is, again, very massive. If I'm very careful here, it also has some flat back as well, so you can lay it down like on its side. This would be a nice like coffee table mantelpiece. Something put on your desk or in your living room, that kind of thing. Again, a massive piece here, pretty large. All right, we're gonna move on to our next one. Oh God, okay. Jesus, that was good. Okay, the next one that we got here, this actually has that cement backing that I was talking about. That classic dark gray cement backing. Take a look at this. So that is actually cement. If you see that on an amethyst, that is cement that's put on to the cluster. keep it from falling apart. Because oftentimes when it's being mined, you'll have fracturing occurring. So the cement actually holds the piece together. This I can actually just set down. Look at that. $160 for this piece. This is really pretty. We even have some nice hematite crystals growing in there as well. Let's take a look here. So, looks like we got some lovely hematite crystals there. Those are those red, kind of rusty minerals growing there. Of course, remember, amethyst is an iron-rich mineral, so you're going to have something like that usually. This one actually has some phantoming going on as well. So if we turn it on its side here, we may be able to see some, maybe in a couple of these points. Yeah, see those dark lines there? Those are some phantoms inside those points. So it looks like kind of interesting here too. We have some hematite-rich amethyst here, right in the middle. So something must have intruded here at some point, and then everything else was kind of growing normally, I guess. Yeah, another really beautiful specimen. I mean, just take a look at that. For $160 too, this is a really good price for this kind of mineral. It even looks like there's some tourmaline in there. What the heck is that? Yeah, you know, there's some really cool stuff in this one. Huh. Very neat. Okay. Oh, again, $160 for this beautiful specimen here. Who wouldn't want it? I would love it. All right. We're going to put these back here. And probably I expected there's going to be more amethyst. I'm going to see if we can take a tiny break from it, though. There's a lot of it. Okay. All right, let's put this heavy flat back. Alrighty. I think we're going to look at some fine specimens next, since those are always fun. Just as a reminder, you know, if you guys see something you like on the stream, whether this is something you're watching later as a recorded video on demand, or if you're watching it now, just drop a comment in the live stream chat or in the comments section on whatever platform you're watching this on, and you know, comment or message us. Say hey, at 15 minutes and 20 seconds, do you guys still have that really cool specimen? And we may have it. Kind of also another update for you guys. All these streams are actually recorded and they're uploaded to YouTube. So if you guys want to watch this later, you know, if you want to catch up on some of the things you missed, definitely check out our YouTube channel. So just look at Midgard Mercantile on YouTube and you'll find us. Ah, yes, these again. All right, we got some azurine here with some feldspar crystals, and we also have some kerolite and some smoky quartz. All right, where should we begin? I guess we'll start with this end of the box. All right, so we got some azurine from Malawi. Alrighty, take a look at this cool specimen here. This guy right here. Let's see, what are we talking here? We're talking $24 for this piece. $24. So our fine mineral specimens, we have a ton of these, right? They're called fine mineral specimens because they're just very unique. They're like collector's pieces. So they're kind of separate from the rest of our stock or our inventory. These are all usually priced individually. Because their quality is either pretty spectacular or it varies. It's really rare. In this case, it's just rare and very cool. So let me just take a look at that. these are really neat minerals. Kind of like if you're really into collecting minerals, or you're just kind of like starting off and you want some like affordable, fine mineral specimens to add to your collection, I would say, you know, if you want something exotic, get some of these. 24 bucks for a piece like this. This is something that you could find in a museum that could be a couple hundred or a couple $1,000s. Just kind of think about that. But yeah, these are really cool. We have a couple of these. Next, we have a $48 one with a, it's actually growing out of a feldspar crystal. Now, feldspar is commonly found in like igneous rock, like granite, that kind of thing. But feldspar as a crystal is very rare. You rarely ever see it in this kind of crystal structure like this, like ever. And in this case, you have it, and you also have these beautiful azurine crystals just all over it. Take a look at that. This piece here is $48. $48 for this beautiful specimen. Again, these are all really nice. These also all come with like little like ID cards in a nice box. So when you're buying these, don't think that you like, oh, I don't have a place to put them. It actually comes in a nice little display box, which is kind of cool. Again, this is $48 for this beautiful specimen here. Yeah, it's really uncommon to actually see feldspar crystals like this in nature. You really just, usually because it forms massively, you know, like in a cluster or something, you're just going to see like the actual crystal trapped inside of a massive rock like granite. But this means that there must have been a pocket open at somewhere within like a pegmatite for this to grow like this. Which is fairly uncommon. I would say this is a nice piece too for like a geologist or something. Very, very cool. All right, so we got a couple more azurine specimens here. We actually have, I think, we have 3 more after this piece. All right, this one's a lot more kind of like reflective, a lot more facets for the light to reflect off of. This piece here is $32. We even have some really kind of interesting quartz crystals growing on it as well. It kind of looks like, you know, again, something you'd see out of a video game, right? Commonly for azurine, you're going to have these long kind of rod-like points just kind of coming out. Look at that. I mean, the stuff is pretty resistant, but just take a look. I mean, that's really cool to see something like that. Again, this is a nice piece to have for, like, you know, a collector, someone who's starting out, that kind of thing. Very, very cool. And for $32. Not bad. We got a couple more pieces here. This one has some more of that feldspar on it. This is more of like a massive point of it. So as you can see, it has a very like rod-like structure, but notice how each individual rod is like its own point. Look how uneven that surface is. See if I can get a closer look here. Yeah, see, each little like spike, each little point there is its own rod. Very like unusual material. This specimen here is actually it's another $48 specimen. Not bad. I think most of the ones with the feldspar are going to be 48. You may even notice too, there's like a kind of a weird, kind of slight off blue or greenish tinge to this azurine. That is actually the like it's kind of like on the color spectrum. It is that color, which is kind of neat. All right, next we're going to look at another one. This one here is $40. Again, another azurine on feldspar. This one has more splintery kind of crystals. I'm going to show it from this angle first. Alrighty, we'll put that one aside for you, Sarita. Okay. Take a look at that. See, again, those like kind of uneven tops there. Got some like hematite or something growing there. Let's just take a look at that. And then if we look on the bottom, right, we've got that feldspar, but look at all those tiny little azurine points, like a little cluster of them. And see that radial pattern there? Right there? Kind of looks like a little starburst. Azurine grows in a radial crystal habit, so it's going to grow like a little flower blossom. Really pretty stuff. Now this piece here, again, this is a $40 specimen of azurine on feldspar. We're going to move on to our next specimen here. Another azurine specimen. This one is really cool. I really like this one. This is absolutely breathtaking. Look how needly those points are. They're just sticking out. It's like a little, like, city of blades. Really cool stuff. And of course we have that feldspar, but notice we even have a almost like a little quartz druzy on the surface of it. It's very, very like spiky, very cool. That one is like as sharp as a needle right there. That is really cool. Now again, this specimen here, $32. In my opinion, I think this piece is actually a lot cooler than all the other ones because of all those cool azurine points just kind of going all different directions. All right, we're going to move on to our next series of fine specimens here. All right, so we got some kerolite. Kerolite is a metallic mineral, and it's kind of like a steel, kind of silver color, and it forms in metamorphic rock called gneiss. You can see here. Take a look at that. So that's kind of cool. These interesting little metallic blossoms here, and as we can see, we have that gneissic rock, right? A metamorphosed granite. And then look at that, each little sparkle there is a tiny kerolite crystal growing. Yet another metallic little crystal growing. Very, very neat, very pretty. This one here is $35. And all of our kerolite specimens, they're from the Congo. This next one is really cool. We got some nice quartz points. Ooh, actually, you know what? I actually think this is actually calcite. Yeah, this is calcite right here. Yeah, take a look at this. We got some kerolite crystals on calcite. You know, I might even actually do some testing on this because if it reacts to hydrochloric acid, it could actually be dolomite, not gneiss, because dolomite actually has strata like that, especially since there's calcite here. And I see the geologist in me already scientifically analyzing all these minerals. Yeah, see, so this is clearly calcite here. We got some calcite crystals here growing in kind of in between these kerolite clusters. It's kind of like an interesting combo, right? This silver with this white. It looks like we even have some sort of like deposit here. This could be some kind of copper or chromium deposit, maybe a chlorite deposit, this like lighter greenish blue material here. This specimen here is $85. A bit more expensive. These are all priced by how many carolite crystals they have. This next piece here, oh yeah, this is definitely calcite. More carolite on calcite. Take a look at this. The carolite is just kind of littered in streams of silver here. The matrix rock is beautiful, but take a look at that carolite. Very, very pretty. Oh yeah. This specimen here is $60. Our next specimen is going to be $60, and in fact, I think this one is actually the prettiest out of the carolite specimens that we have. I got this beautiful matrix rock here, right? And then when we turn it over, take a look at that. Carolite on like a calcite druzy, I think. Really pretty. And this is $60 here. Now this would be kind of like in the upper echelon for like a collector. Again, these are all affordable pieces for collecting, but I'd say like if you want like a step up from the azurine, this would be like the next like level after that. Yeah, this one's really pretty. Absolutely gorgeous. All right. Next, we're going to move on to our smoky quartz from Malawi. These all have some really neat inclusions, some black tourmaline running through them. And they also have phantoms as well. Now take a look at that. These are all double terminated as well. See that? Talk about rare. All right, we'll put that carolite specimen away. If you wanted this one, I'll put that away as well if you want. Look at that. Absolutely gorgeous. Now, the tourmaline, it might actually be like black. Could be black tourmaline, or it could be like green tourmaline. This specimen here is $48. Now, for a double terminated specimen like this, look at the clarity. Very clear. I mean, with 2 points like this, besides being very rare, especially for the length of the point, the price, I like, again, you know, we sell just above wholesale, so I would expect to pay a lot of money for something like this. This is something that I would actually see like in a museum or something. Very cool. I don't think I've ever really, besides our fine specimens here, I don't think I've ever mined or seen a double terminated smoky quartz point like this before. It's very particular to the region, probably. It looks like we have some nice, we have some interesting light refraction in there. Very interesting. Let's see if we can get a close look at this guy. Wow. Yeah, take a look at that. Oh yeah, look at the way the light just refracts through it. That is really neat. Oh my god. See, like, things I just don't notice about our pieces. Now, $48 for this guy. Let's keep turning it. It's a decent size too. Yeah, I like it. All right, we'll move on to our next one here. We only have 2 of these in this flat. I think these are actually the 2 that we have left. We sold a couple like 2 live streams ago. This next one is Smoky Quartz, again from Malawi. This time we have some azurine on the bottom. This one's a little more thin, a little more narrow, and also double terminated as well. So we have some matrix rock that was growing on right there. It looks like some sort of is that a matrix rock? Yeah, it is. I don't know. It could be. I think it's just another Smoky Quartz one. Just kind of like encrusted or something there. Very neat. So on the bottom here, or halfway through I should say, we have like some phantoming going on. Very interesting phantoming. Get a close look at some of those phantoms. Yeah, look at that. Very cool. Now this one here, this is $32. It's a little cheaper, which is kind of nice. Yeah, some of these tiny points here, I think those might even be some feldspar points there. I don't know. Very interesting specimen here. And again, we have that double termination. We have a couple terminations here on this side, but it does seem to all kind of include into one apex. And again, clarity-wise, it's fairly clear. We got some inclusions in there. You can see why it's a bit cheaper. And look at that light refraction too. Let's see if we can get a kind of a nice rotation here. Yeah. Really pretty. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, for some reason, I think that's the irradiation inside the smoky quartz must be affecting the light scattering, because that's some really cool light refraction. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Very cool specimen. Again, this is a $32 specimen from Zamba, Malawi. Very cool. Alright, we're going to move on to our next in the series here. So that concludes our Smoky Quartz series. Now we are going to move on to our sphalerite calcite specimens. So we have some sphalerite crystals on calcite. These are all from Smith County, Tennessee, and these are very particular to that region. Alright, let's see if we can get a nice look at this one. It's really pretty. So on this one we have a massive calcite crystal just through the whole piece, and littered through the specimen we have some sphalerite, dark orange sphalerite crystals as well, just kind of running through. So we got this orange calcite right here, that's what that is, and the kind of like the sparkly material here, those are actually tiny little calcite crystals. And of course the sphalerite is this kind of dark brownish, reddish, orangish crystal here. This specimen is really pretty. Some of the light refraction in the sphalerite is very cool. I mean, take a look at that. That's, you can see some color in there. Yeah, some of this stuff is definitely a little translucent as well. This specimen here is $64. Now, this is definitely, we're going up in scale here, right? If you were a collector, if you're just starting out, this is a step up from the Carolite now. So I would say just something like this is a bit more like exquisite. This is a fine specimen. Yeah, take a look at the reds in there. And then that calcite crystal too, just coming through the whole thing. That is uncommon. And look at that, we even have some translucency there too. That's really cool. Alright, we're going to move on to our next one. Again, this specimen here is $64. These are all from Smith County, Tennessee. Next, we're going to be looking at another one. This is more like sphalerite without any calcite. We just have some sphalerite on some dolomite, some calcite. The sphalerite here is a lot more colorful though. Again, this piece here is also $64. Take a look at that. Really pretty. Yeah, take a look at those color in there too. The color is just absolutely gorgeous. Yeah. Now, where this stuff is found, this is found in, like, you expect to see this in, like, an environment where there's lots of limestone or marble, that kind of thing, which there is a lot towards the, like, eastern Midwest, going towards the East Coast, East and South Coast. You have lots of limestone caves. That's where you'd probably find this material. And this is definitely cave material. You would not see this a lot towards the surface. This is like you're digging deep into a mine. Yeah, very, very cool stuff. Very pretty. Now, all of these specimens here, it looks like they're all $64. So we have two more. Yep, we have two more here. This one is really cool. This is one of my favorite ones. It actually has a couple tiny calcite crystals, but it's like a little cake, little slice of cake. It's really cool. Take a look at that. It's like a little limestone or dolomite slice covered with calcite crystals. Really, really cool. And of course that, on top of that, is covered with sphalerite crystals and calcite crystals. Look at those tiny, cute yellow calcite crystals on there. Really pretty. Now this is a nice, like, very unique display. Very, very cool. So we can get a really close-up look here. Oh yeah, look at that. The color in that sphalerite is absolutely breathtaking. Especially with the contrast of the really light white dolomite or calcite. Really pretty. Again, these are all $64 from Smith County, Tennessee. And these are all decent size too. Very, very cool. Alright, we're going to look at one more, and then we're going to move on to our next flat. This one is actually on a, well, I shouldn't say less interesting. It's still very sparkly. Kind of like a less kind of, you know, clustery sort of dolomite here. More, it's very sparkly though. But if we turn this over, we have a huge sphalerite cluster, just a massive sphalerite cluster with a really dark orange calcite crystal poking through there. Very, very cool specimen. And then this piece is also $64. Take a look at that. And we got some alright clarity for some of these calcite crystals. Generally, the calcite crystals from Tennessee tend to be a little more like opaque, so when you see that translucency, it's really kind of a treat, I'd say. Yeah, it's very, very pretty. See if we can see some of the color on that sphalerite too. Yeah, look at that. It's the light shining through it. You know, that is really cool. Alright. Again, that was our Smith County, Tennessee calcite on sphalerite. We're going to move on to our next flat now. All those are very pretty, very cool. All right, let's see what we got here. We got some citrine clusters. Let's see how we do with these. All right. We looked at these last time, and everybody cleaned us out. So we're going to do it again, since we have a lot of them. All right, so we're going to look at some of our smaller ones first. We have some small ones here that we're selling for $9 each. Oh, sorry, take that back. $5 each for the small ones. That's even better, right? And then we have some larger ones that are like medium in size that we're selling for $9. All right, so let's take a look here. We're going to look at some of the small ones first. I also do believe that we may have one in here with ametrine. Well, let's take a look here. We'll go through this quick. All right, so boom. We got some nice $5 small citrine clusters. Great to put in your pocket, in your purse, put it on your altar, take it with you, put it in your car. Citrine, because all the citrine actually comes from Brazil. Again, an iron-rich mineral. Citrine is also kind of nice to have for prosperity. If you know, especially in a time like this for businesses, if you are, just starting a business, in China, actually, it is a kind of like a cultural tradition to put a piece of citrine in your shop. It's kind of like a good luck totem to bring prosperity and wealth to you through your business. Again, also citrine is very good for sun energy. I got that golden sun color. A lot of these also have some neat little hematite crystals. We can even see that red hematite in there. Very cool. All right, Lisa. The first one or this one? Yeah, these are all really neat. First and second. All right, we'll put this aside for you. This next one is a bit larger. Again, these are all $5 each. Some of these have some nice little microcrystalline fractures, so you get some nice little rainbows in there as well. Now again, this is artificial light, so just remember that in sunlight, these are going to look like 10 times prettier. So just keep that in mind too. It's like even on like Instagram or Facebook, when we're doing our social media and taking pictures of our specimens, it's really difficult to capture like the true beauty of the stones. That's what's so nice about doing it, like shows and stuff. We do a lot of gem shows, and obviously we are not doing that right now because of the pandemic. But getting a hands-on look at some of these, completely different experience than just seeing it on a screen. I will say that. Even got some nice phantoms as well. So you can see that all the edges of the facets are outlined in kind of like a darker citrine color. That is indicative of phantoms. All right, next we're going to look at another one here. Remember, these are all $5 each. Pretty good price for some small citrine clusters. We got some nice phantoming in there as well. Some hematite crystals. Nice big point right here as well. Very, very pretty. Kind of a neat little druzy on the back side too. Notice that shimmering effect. Oftentimes we don't look at the back of the cluster, but that's really cool. That shimmering sort of glossy effect. Those are all little tiny citrine crystals growing on there. Really neat. Gosh, things I notice on these things. Just every single time, more and more. All right. So next we got this guy. yet another really pretty one. This one is nice because you have these nice kind of like, it's really interesting. You kind of have this like, each point is outlined with some sort of manganese deposit. You got some hematite crystals in there as well. Ooh, it looks like we even have some ametrine in here. You can kind of see a little bit of purple on the bottom there. So a little lesser quality than the ametrine we had last time. That's all sold now, sadly. Good for you guys, though. But look at that. We got a little tiny, tiny bit of ametrine in there. Very pretty. The back, we got kind of an interesting little kind of structure here. We'll move on to our next one here. This one's really pretty. We have a lot of inclusions here. Lots of hematite inclusions. Take a look at that. See if we can get a nice close-up there. See all those little splintery hematite crystals growing inside there? Yeah, even from the side you can see them. Look at that. Very, very cool. Very pretty. Alrighty, we'll put this one aside for you. Alright, next. This one's kind of neat. This one is actually kind of cool. I like this because it has a flat-lapped backing to it. So it's been cut on one side. Take a look at that. So you can definitely see that cut polish on this side. And you can kind of get like a little glimpse or a window into the actual cluster. Kind of neat. We also have some nice rainbows in there, some microcrystalline fractures. This is something I just never noticed before. The bottom of the cluster has a druzy on it. Each one does. So it's really neat. Got some nice hematite clusters in there. Some little crystals kind of penetrating through. Got some nice hematite clusters in there. Next we got, let's see what we got here. I think I'll show two more of these. Pick some pretty ones. Alrighty, so this one's a nice kind of deep orange. I actually really like this one. It's capped off with a nice citrine cluster. I mean, look at that. It's just, you even have some phantoms in there as well. This must have been a fairly young cluster as well. Oh my gosh, look at those phantoms. That is really neat. So notice how obviously the citrine here is pretty small. So this is a fairly young cluster. It just started growing probably within the past couple million years. We got some nice phantoming in there as well. Nice dark phantoms. Very pretty. And then on the bottom we have this interesting agate layer. The display here too, I mean, look at that. It's just like a layer cake. It's like a cake, really. And on the back side, we even have some of that interesting druzy shimmering going on. Really pretty. Next, and last for our small citrine clusters, we have this very pretty tiny guy right here. Now look at this. Again, still small and capped, but look how the phantoms are outlined with these tiny, tiny little crystals, those dark crystals there. I think those are either hematite crystals or manganese crystals, but notice how they're kind of outlining the former facets of the phantom. That is something that you don't see too often. Yeah, look at that. See that? Very nice reflective index in these as well. Oh yeah, that's really pretty. Again, these are all $5 for our small ones. You know what? And I think, why not just show one more? think I'm gonna try to find one with some ametrine in it. Maybe a larger one. Let's do a larger one. Yeah, okay, we'll do this one. Alright, so lastly, we're gonna show this one off. Kind of like a nice little bloom. This is like something you'd say, okay, this is the classic citrine cluster, right? $5 for this, by the way. $5. We got some nice agate here, some banded agate, a nice dark green band running through the whole cluster with these kind of interesting little dark hematite crystals in there. And look at that. Oof, beautiful. And on the back side, look at that. Oof, got that nice druzy there as well again. Very pretty. All right, Lisa, we will put this aside for you. All right. Well, there's a couple here left. Why not? I think we have a couple more. Oh, this is very pretty. Take a look at this. Now, this one actually has some nice microcrystalline fractures. Take a look at that rainbow in there. Look at that. Let's see if we get a nice angle. Oh, yeah, there we go. We even have some hematite crystals inside as well, kind of outlining some former phantoms. Again, that we have that former dark coloration in there. On the bottom, do we have any druzy? No druzy on this one, but look at that purple. Look at that purple. That's some ametrine in there, right? Look at that. Some amethyst. Got that transition there. Very cool. I guess we have a little bit left. Some of these are really pretty. Oh yeah, look at that. Oh man. That's so cool. Alright. Next we're going to move on to... Let's do one more. This is kind of a cute $5 one. Kind of shaped like a heart. Look at that. Very pretty, very cute. We have a nice citrine bloom. So we got some phantoming going on here. We can see it cut from the side too. Look at that. We have some nice hematite crystals outlining the former facets of the cluster. And then we have these tiny, tiny, cute little citrine points kind of capping the cluster. Very, very pretty. I really like this piece. Very cool. Alright, Sarita, we will put this aside for you. Okay. Well, alright, I might as well keep showing these. You guys are cleaning us out. Ay, ay, ay. Alright. We have 2 more in here that I can show. These are actually really cool. Okay, so this one has like 1 or 2 hematite crystals growing, and then look at that. So we have a couple in there, like almost like teardrop shapes, little globules. Look at that. We got 2 in there. That's actually really neat. Yeah. Yeah, some of these is just like just try to think about how they formed. Each cluster has its own story. It's very fascinating. So here we got some nice orange phantoms. Again, like classic citrine. This one's kind of nice. It's just capped with the top with citrine. I mean, but from a distance, look at that. That dark phantom in there just kind of hits that apex of the crystal nicely. If we take another closer look here, we got some really pretty banded agate on the bottom. Very, very pretty. Some nice banding there as well. We have a little bit of ametrine there, but not really developed. Next we have another gorgeous cluster here. Look at that. This one's a nice golden color, and it's pretty consistent throughout the cluster. That's quite uncommon. Usually you only see that when you have a very iron-rich deposit, very iron-rich pocket, because you can see that color goes all the way to the bottom here. And even take a look at that translucency there too. The light comes all the way through the crystal. That is very uncommon. Have a nice thin banded agate layer along the bottom crust, and we have some of that, yeah, we have some of that nice druzy as well again. Coming back for more. Look at that. This one doesn't have a lot of inclusions though. It's just kind of just massive and yellow. Very pretty. We have a couple phantoms there though on the side, along the edge of the facets. Not like that one there. That's like really pretty, right there. Yeah. Very, very pretty. All right, we have 3 more left here in the $5 selection. We got this guy here. Got some, not a lot of druzy on this guy on the back. We do have some phantoms, some more little hematite crystals growing in here. Again, this is kind of like a little cute little citrine cluster. A lot of these are actually capped on the top with citrine, which is kind of interesting. We do have some phantoms as well inside here, in there. Yeah, we got even a nice massive hematite crystal in there as well. Very cool. Next we got this one. This one has a tiny bit of citrine. Again, more capped on the top. A little druzy on the bottom. Let's take a look at those inclusions though. We have a couple phantoms. Some inclusions in there. Yeah, we have a couple hematite crystals just kind of spotting former phantoms, which is kind of nice in this one. Alright, next and finally for our $5 grouping, we got some really nice clear ones here with a lot of hematite inclusions. Take a look at this one. We got a lot going on here. Yeah, take a look at that. We even have some of that druzy on the bottom. But look at those inclusions in those phantoms. We even have a couple like microcrystalline fractures, so we have some rainbows as well. This was really pretty. Those tiny, tiny hematite crystals just kind of take the cake for me. But yeah, we have some microcrystalline fractures in that point as well. Some rainbows. Kind of nice. Alright, that wraps up our $5 grouping. Now we're going to move on to our $9 grouping. So let me just put some of these back here. We got quite a few we went through. Quite a few we sold. I think next I'll look at this one. Oh yeah. Oh my god. This is, like, some of these are just so pretty. Oh. Now, mining these is very hard work. Imagine just taking some sledgehammers to some salt. Nice way to get your anger out. Okay, so this one here, this is really interesting. We have some neat little cloudy inclusions in this one. Very nice, big and yellow. Again, these are all, this is starting our $9 citrine cluster collection here. Now, this one is nice. We have some really interesting banded agate here on the side. Nice defined layers. That is not super common for citrine clusters like this. Nice consistent color too, going through the whole piece. We have some hematite crystals on the side. Very, very cool. Backside we have some of that druzy going on again. And you can kind of tell this is a little bit more opaque. It looks like we have some interesting kind of like cloudy inclusions in here inside of the matrix quartz. Sort of neat. There's a couple windows here we can look through. Very cool. Next, we're going to look at this one. This one's really neat. I actually like this one. This one even has ametrine in it. Kind of neat. Take a look at this. So all these little spots on here, those are tiny calcite crystals growing on top of the cluster. So the points themselves are kind of like sticking out through this little snow of calcite. Sort of neat. And of course you can kind of see that purple layer in there, capped with a bunch of hematite crystals. See all those hematite crystal inclusions? Really neat. You even have a really interesting kind of like greenish inclusion there. That's neat. We got some, of course, this layer of ametrine there, some amethyst. On this side, again, we have more of those very interesting hematite inclusions. Very cool. Again, all of these guys are $9 each, and they all come from Brazil. This one has some nice phantoming going on. Again, with some more of those hematite inclusions. So let's take a look here. We got a couple of those in there. Yeah, we got some nice, nice vantage point of those hematite crystals. We can even see some blooming going on with this specimen. And then there's a couple angles here that really just show the phantoms very well. I'm trying to find some of those angles. Yeah, I mean, whenever you turn the specimen, you can definitely see them. Yeah, right in that big one right there. Yeah, see in the upper corner of the specimen, you can see those little lines, all those phantoms. Very, very cool. Alright, gonna move on to our next specimen. This one's kind of neat. Oh, yeah, I really like this one. Take a look at this. You got this cluster of all these tiny little points. This would be considered cactus, so this would be like a cactus citrine. Lots of little hematite crystals. You can see those in there, and it's pretty much a solid piece of citrine. Notice how it just kind of goes through the whole piece. This would be interesting to cut. I would imagine this could actually be a solid piece. In the center, we also have a little bit of ametrine kind of coming through. This greenish kind of inclusion here, I think that might actually be kind of like the citrine on top with ametrine or amethyst behind it, making it look or appear kind of green. It might also be transitionary material, so it could be like in between amethyst and citrine as well. It's really neat. And this piece is kind of nice. You could probably stand it up on its own like this. Alright, move on to our next piece here. This one's kind of nice. We have some inclusions in here. Nice phantoms. This one has some nice phantoms with those hematite crystals just capping them. We have the nice orange phantoms on this one with those hematite phantoms. Look at that. It's like looking into a tesseract. Yeah, take a look at those. Those phantoms are really cool. Very, very pretty. You don't see that kind of phantoming too often. It's very, very rare. I'm pretty certain that a lot of these points, a lot of these clusters actually came from probably the same pocket, especially the ones that have very similar conclusions. Welcome back. Got through quite a few things while you were gone, but luckily this is recorded, so you can check it out on YouTube later. Yeah, take a look at those inclusions. Yeah, the hematite inclusions are really neat, especially when they just outline each individual facet like that. That's really neat. Very, very cool. All right, we're going to move on to our next one here. So I think we're going to look at a couple dark citrine ones. Now, remember how we had our dark amethyst? The color, like I should say the contrast of the color. If it's darker, that means that it's been irradiated. So it's just been like heated by the inner earth. You have some amethyst and citrine that has been like artificially heated or irradiated, which will darken the color. All of this is natural though. Yeah, we went through a lot of fine mineral specimens from Africa, which was kind of neat earlier. Now, the orange and the dark citrine is really beautiful. Definitely notice the difference in color, right? So we have that darker color. That's that irradiation at work right there, right? So the bottom of this has been flat lapped or cut. This is actually more like a rough cut. So this would be a nice piece to display, kind of like a paperweight piece or an altarpiece if you wanted. But yeah, just take a look at that color. Really bright burnt orange. Very stark contrast to the white. These are very pretty in the daylight as well. Again, these are all $9 each. This is more of like a cactus dark citrine. So we have a lot of like a bed of tiny points. Again, look at that, just that color difference there, that contrast of the white and the orange. Really, really pretty. And just to think too that it's you had obviously the difference between an iron ion, right, between the amethyst and the citrine, but then after the crystals formed, you had to somehow repressurize them or reheat them underground. So basically, it's like a double process, right? You have the crystallization occurring, reheating it, and then the color change happens. So that usually indicates movement of Earth. So usually you probably had like the crystals develop and then something happened to where they were compressed. So maybe there was some mountain building processes, some orogenies maybe, which are just, again, another name for mountain building processes. Yeah, so that could have been the case with some of these. Or some hydrothermal activity. The water can also heat it as well. There's another name for that when you have superheated water and it comes out of steam. We call those like phreatic wells. So it's so hot that the water is like already vaporized underground. That kind of stuff can really cook rock really well. Oh, we certainly will. Now this one's really neat. This one's like a interesting shape as well. That dark citrine color, right? In the right light, the light just shines right through it. Look at that. Really beautiful orange color. Now the dark citrines, this is less about the inclusions, right? This is more about the color. The color is very, very beautiful. This is something that you see a lot in gift shops, that kind of thing. And for actually, yeah, Perez, please send us a DM on either Facebook or Instagram, and we'll do some looking for you. But yeah, I mean, that dark color is absolutely gorgeous. Look at that. Even some of those bands in there too. You got a nice banded agate layer. I mean, just looking at this is like looking at tree rings. I mean, you're really looking at the story here of the cluster. You know, what it went through. It's like an open book, really. Very, very cool. And then, of course, look at that refractive index, right? So we have refractive index, just basically, we're just talking about how the light interacts with the stone. You know, we have kind of, at this angle, it's pretty dark, and then if we move it, look at that. Beautiful color change. We have that light just kind of coming through those facets. Each facet acting as a window. Again, these are all $9 each. And as a reminder for you guys, if you see something that you like on the stream, if you're watching this now live, or if you're watching this as a video on demand, just drop a comment in the comment section, message us, say, hey, I want that piece, and we'll get your order set up for you. Alright, I'm going to show another one here. Look at that. This one has a couple inclusions in here too. We have lots of microcrystalline fractures. Now, what's interesting about this piece, you may notice these kind of like opaque, kind of cloudy points. They're not really cloudy. They have a ton of little microcrystalline fractures. And what has happened is that they're actually fracturing along those phantoms, those growth lines. And that's probably due to some density differences. That can happen. Very common. But it's kind of nice to see it like this, because that light, when it comes through, it looks cloudy and artificial light. In the sunlight, though, it's a ton of rainbows. It's just filled with rainbows. So again, that's that light refraction. Very, very pretty. Alright, we're going to look at a couple more here. These are some lighter ones. I'm going to pull some out that actually have some more inclusions. Because, you know, those are always interesting. Let's see, I think I'll look at 3 more. And then we'll move on. Alright. Well, let's say 4. Why not? Okay. Take a look at this guy. We got some nice dark phantoms there. Big kind of interesting clear points. Very translucent. We have a couple microcrystalline fractures. This one's kind of neat. And again, that like almost like that beautiful gemmy yellow. This material here, this stuff, that part right there, that's the part that you're going to be cutting. If you're a gem cutter, if the points aren't gemmy enough, you're going to go for right there, that center. That's what you want to start cutting and turn into like beautiful faceted stones. Right there, you know, the more solid your material is, less fractures, the more stable it is. So stability is great for, you know, that's one of the factors you look for in a stone when you're doing gem cutting or faceting. In fact, people go to school for many years and spend lots of money going to school to be a gemologist. Yeah, it's it's quite the profession. This one's kind of nice. We got some nice hematite inclusions here. Another interesting specimen. Yeah, we we got some nice spotting there. We also have some more of those phantoms. You can see it in that point right there. Very, very cool. Oh yeah, look at that. Yeah, some of these are so beautiful. I mean, just looking at the clarity in some of these points, you can just get a really good look at some of those phantoms and some of those occlusions. This one here, again, more phantoms. These have really defined phantoms. Now, again, seeing phantoms like that, it's what creates them, right? All a phantom is just like a tree ring, right? It's a growth line. So if we're talking about crystal growth, the crystal is basically growing in layers, just one layer deposited on top of another layer on top of another layer, and it just repeats itself. So it starts off as a very tiny crystal, and then layer after layer after layer, you end up with this massive point. So each, you might even be able to see, but on the sides of some of these, you might even see some growth lines. See on that facet that's kind of being reflective right there, see those tiny little striations? Those are all little growth lines. Those phantoms are just little windows. We're looking into the crystal itself and seeing those growth lines. So at that point, the reason it's darker, maybe there's something happened and there was maybe more iron that was intruded into the cluster for some reason. Maybe the water was more iron rich for whatever reason it was. And so that way, maybe the crystal was, maybe heated or cooked or had more iron, whatever the factor might be, but something must have changed for the crystal to change color like that. And then it changed back. So looking at this, it's kind of like gives you an idea of how the crystal formed. Really, really neat. Now, like in regards to tree rings, you can really see a lot about what the life of the tree was like, right? Whether there was a year that was cold or had more water, more rain, or it was dry, or maybe there was a fire that went through. You can see that in the tree rings. In a crystal, however, the lines, those phantoms, each layer, doesn't usually, you can't really tell from age. Like that, you can't really determine the age of the crystal by looking at that. But you can see a lot about, what the crystal went through when it was forming. If you really want to get the age of the crystal, radiometric dating is best. So get some of those isotopes in there and see how much lead is in there, maybe. Radioactive decay is the only way to really see how stuff like this, how old this stuff is. And if not, if you don't have any radioactive isotopes to, look at, then the only thing you'd look at is the surrounding area. Okay, so the surrounding rock, how old is the surrounding rock? And then, you can just kind of assume that this crystal would be that old because the surrounding rock is a certain age. This piece is kind of nice, has some nice hematite inclusions, just like the other one, some nice phantoms. Just another example, good example of the citrine with the inclusions. Very, very nice. All right, that wraps up our $9 series. So that was a lot. We have a lot of citrine, but again, this is one flat's worth. I think we might have one more flat of this stuff left. So, hopefully once this pandemic settles down, we'll be able to go out and mine some and buy some more material for you guys. It is sad though we can't do a in-person show, but this is still pretty fun. I think it's fun. I get to look at all these crystals while I do this, so for me it's like I'm in heaven. All right. So next we're gonna look at another flat. What do we got here? Looks like we have maybe some more citrine. Maybe. Aha! We got some large citrine clusters here. So if you guys are interested in like a large citrine cluster. You know, like those large amethyst clusters we looked at earlier. One of these might be for you. Citrine tends to be a little cheaper than amethyst. These clusters are really cool. I'm going to start off with this one because it's really just different. This one has some calcite crystals growing in it. And it's a nice kind of like champagne yellow citrine. Really interesting, kind of like a almost like a, I don't know, it's very strange. Usually you don't see it this light. So this just indicates that there's probably less iron in the pocket that this was forming in. We have a nice, really interesting backing here. Some interesting druzy on the back. Some banding on the side. It is like snow citrine. And we have those nice dark yellow calcite crystals there, kind of a nice contrast. And this druzy is nice. I mean, look at how the light reflects off each facet. And for $28 for a piece like this is pretty big. Pretty good price. All right, we're going to move on to our next specimen here. I'm going to kind of go in order here, so if anybody wants these, we will, you know, I'll have them already in a row here, so it won't be too confusing. This one's kind of nice. This is another $28 cluster. We have some nice hematite inclusions in this one as well. It's almost like a coconut. I mean, look at that dark outer shell with this kind of whitish agate here. And these all have those hematite inclusions. Look at that. Very, very cool. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and again, $28 for this specimen here, too. See, these would be nice specimens to put either, you know, above your fireplace, on your shelf, on your desk at home, in your altar. These are nice, large specimens. These are affordable specimens if you want a nice piece to put somewhere. This is like a very good deal here. Oh, yeah, it's actually a really nice close-up there. Look at that. Very cool. All right, we're gonna move on to our next citrine cluster. This one's another $28 citrine cluster. This one is really neat. We have some nice banded agate on the side. Look at those layers, and look at those hematite splinters. Look at those hematite crystals just kind of shooting through that layer of citrine. And again, $28 for this piece. Some nice large points too. Let's get a close up of some of those points too as well. Really nice colors. Oh yeah. We even have some phantoming going on in there as well, which is really neat. And again, that nice gemmy material there. That is really nice to see. $28 for this specimen. Look at that. All these also do come from Brazil. The banded agate layer in there as well. That was like probably, that's like the creme de la creme of that specimen. Now this specimen here. Let's see what we got here. These next two are pretty pricey. Just because of color and quality. So this one, oh nice, yeah, we have quite a few of those celestite clusters left now. They're really pretty. Alright, so this this next one here. $120 for this cluster. Take a look at the color in that. Kind of shaped like a heart, a weird sort of, you know, oblong heart. Now, it's kind of interesting. We have some sort of a little druzy cluster there. Not too sure what it is. It might be, you know, some calcite. It could be maybe a tiny little piece of cactus citrine. Not too sure. I haven't really looked at it close enough, but each one of these points, notice those dark tips at each apex of every point. Those are those phantoms, right? This is a phantom citrine cluster. Each one has phantoms. Very, very cool. Another massive cluster as well. $120 for this guy. On the back, don't got a lot going on. I mean, just like turning this around, just letting the light reflected off of each facet, just very, very breathtaking. Let's do one more close-up look here at these little points. We have some interesting microcrystalline fractures in there as well. They're like so deep inside the point that it almost, I don't know, it's like a golden rainbow almost in some of them. There's this one point over here I kind of want to look at. Find it again. There it is, right by the price tag actually. Take a look at those microcrystalline fracture in there, some of those rainbows. Very, very, very pretty. Again, $120 for this massive, gorgeous specimen. Next, we have one more pricey piece. This is another massive cluster. This is a $160 citrine cluster. So this over here. There we go. All right. Take a look at this. Another massive one, probably from probably the same pocket, I'd say. We still have that kind of same sort of agate layer at the bottom. And then if we look at it, take a look at this. Again, this is $160 here. This one has a lot of little, like, microcrystalline fractures just shimmering. Take a look at that. We have some nice hematite inclusions in there as well. Very, very cool. All right, we're gonna move on to our next flat here. We have about 15 minutes left in the stream, but I was gonna go over a little bit because we started a little late this time. 5 minutes late. So why not? Plan is to get through at least all of these flats today. Do better than I did last time. Alright, so we got some points. I'm going to put a break from the citrine and the amethyst for now. We have a ton of that. Let's get something different. We got some chrysoprase, and we have some carnelian rough. Now the carnelian rough, let's show that first. This is going to require kind of a special display method here. I'm going to get a little flashlight. So here is our carnelian rough. Looks like a piece of rough cobble, right? Too quickly here. Look at that. See that light in there, right? It's pretty translucent. So if I get a light, I might be able to shine through here. See how I can do this. No, I think I might just turn off one of these. There we go. Now we can really see it. Now, in the sunlight, this is a lot better of an effect. So carnelian, you can pretty much find it anywhere. Oftentimes, it's going to be in like a riverbed, a dry riverbed, some cobble. As you can see, it's kind of tumbled. Looks like a piece of cobble. And really, from the surface, you can't really tell that it's, you know, a piece of carnelian. It just looks like another rock. Again, if you take a closer look, you can probably tell it's not just rhyolite or something. This is like carnelian agate, and if you cut this, there'd be some bands in there probably. But just take a look at that color in there. Very, very pretty. We have some polished carnelian, and it's nice to actually do like a comparison. So we take the polished, and we look at that, and then we look at the rough, and put the rough up to the sun, and take a look at how the light shines through it. And a lot of people, they're like, wow, they kind of like, you know, it's kind of like a hidden beauty, like a diamond in the rough almost. So yeah, these are very, very pretty. Carnelian has been used by humans for a very, very long time. Various cultures have been using carnelian in jewelry. Carnelian has been seen as a sign of, or symbol of good health, fortification of the blood. It's also a symbol of royalty. In ancient Rome, the Romans would, very rich and powerful Romans would be wearing carnelian. It's a very royal stone. Very, very pretty. We have one more here. And pricing wise, the carnelian rough we're selling at $12 each. Not bad. This one actually has a price tag on it. Alright, take a look at this one. So again, you know, you can kind of see that it's like a little translucent, but when you put it up to the light, you can definitely see that difference there, right? Definitely see that, like that pitting from the tumbling. We can even see the agate layers. Look at that, the banding in there. These are very, very pretty. Now, if you're really into like stones that aren't too refined, this would probably be a good like option for you. And if you wanted to try your hand at working with a piece of carnelian, you know, if you want a rough piece, buy one of these. $12 for this. Not bad rough. Alrighty. I'm going to move on to our next grouping here. Turn this LED back on. So our next here, we have a chrysoprase series. This is all rough chrysoprase. Usually you're going to find chrysoprase around meandering rivers, and you'll have a river, right? It'll meander, it'll go back and forth over the course of thousands of years, and you'll have these meanders that have been cut off from the main river, and the name for them just escapes me right now. But generally you're going to find this chrysoprase in those kinds of areas. You're going to find it, and it's a kind of a rough silicate material. bright blue. Look at that. So metaphysically, chrysoprase is great for just calming emotions. It has a very calming green color. And it's very pretty. Chrysoprase is also used in jewelry making. Lots of people will turn this into cabochons, things like that. This specimen here is $47. Another beautiful piece. These usually form, I think, these are all from South America. I think they're from Brazil. You might even be able to see a bit of banding here as well along the outer edge of this layer of chrysoprase. There is like some lighter material there. That's kind of interesting to see. Very, very cool. We've got another piece here of chrysoprase. This next piece is $18. You may notice it actually forms in these like kind of layers, right? That's very common. Usually you'll find it in layers, kind of underneath a riverbed. Take a look at this one. $18 for this one, and this is really pretty. It's shaped like a heart too. That's very cute. And when these are polished, they're very, very pretty. Any of our rough stones, I'd recommend just kind of like run it under the water in your tap, you know, from your kitchen, and take a look at the color will just pop. When you polish a stone, basically what you're doing is you're just imitating the look of water. You're imitating that water, you're polishing that stone. Water just kind of like gives a, really just allows you to kind of see the stone clearly for what it is. Very, very pretty for this one. Next, we have one more chrysoprase specimen here. This one is also $18. Again, that classic kind of like light green, seafoam green or blue. That is really classic for this stuff. Just take a look. Imagine what this would look like if it was polished and cleaned up. Now again, we have some rough pieces, right? So if you're into that like less refined stuff, get one of these. Not everybody's into the polished stuff, and me personally, I kind of like rough specimens anyways. Alrighty. So, looks like we're gonna go back into the citrine. Oh, alrighty. Which one, Sarita? Last one? Put both the last two in the pile just in case one of those. Okay. Alright, so we have two more flats, two tiny flats. Alright, last one. Alrighty, so these are the we got some citrine points, and we have some amethyst points. Now we have phantom amethyst, and we also have the citrine, which is some of it has some phantoms. These are some expensive points, though. These are $12 each. They're much larger than our smaller ones that we featured last weekend, and they're very pretty. We actually picked a couple of these out after our last show because they were way too pretty. We were like, okay, we got to keep some of these. All right, so again, these are all $12 each. $12 each for these guys. Look at that. So these are nice, big citrine points. Look at that. Each one is very, very high quality. Look at that. You kind of see that, like, it's very translucent. Each facet just a window into the crystal specimen. Look at that. We have some microcrystalline fractures in there as well. Alrighty, we'll put this one aside. This next one, very, very cool. We got some interesting growth lines on this one from the side. You can see each one of those lines, just another growth line. Very, very, very cool. Has some nice phantoms in this one. Couple hematite crystals. Take a close look here at the any inclusions we have. We have a lot of fracturing in here, so lots of microcrystalline fractures. In the sunlight, you'd see a lot of rainbows probably around here. This is where the light would be refracting. Another really cute point. Yeah, you can even see some of that up in the top of the point there. Some of those rainbows from those microcrystalline fractures. Very, very cool. All right, we got another one here. This one's just a massive point. So look at that. Just the top of the point. That's all it is. So we have a couple different facets here. Each one a little bit different. Kind of like a window or a glimpse into the crystal itself. See all those fractures? In the sunlight, this would be absolutely beautiful. Lots of rainbows. I can even see a couple right now. So you can get a close-up here of the any of the inclusions. Come on, focus camera. There we go. Oh yeah, look at that. We got some towards the top as well. Very, very pretty. Take a look how this, how the light just shines through it too from the bottom. Really cool. Really translucent piece. I like this one. Alrighty. Our next one is kind of interesting. It's like it was kind of trapped in between a couple points, probably. Take a look at this. So there's one point here, and the rest are kind of like just it's kind of trapped. Generally, you can tell if there's been a constrained point growing. When there's clearly one tiny point, one clear facet here, there's very clearly you can see there's a facet there. But the rest is just a bunch of growth lines. Look at that. It's all growth lines. So it's just kind of unique, but it just indicates that it was just kind of squished in between a bunch of other bigger points. All these are $12. These are all $12. And at the very top, you can kind of see a little microcrystalline fracture in there. And some hematite crystals as well. That's kind of neat. Look at the translucency in there too. We have this kind of pocket of citrine here on the bottom. Really unique. Well, alrighty, we'll put it aside for you. Next, we have a very clear citrine point. Some big kind of like microcrystalline fractures in this one as well. Take a look at this one. So again, look how clear it is. That translucency is hard to come by for citrine. Definitely take a look at that. Look how that light just travels through the stone. Really pretty. Got some hematite crystals as well on the side. Let's take a closer look there. There we go. Got another phantom kind of coming through there. Take a look at how clear that is. Very clear material. Let's see if we can get a close-up here of some of these facets. Oh yeah, we got some nice rainbows in there. It almost looks like liquid or water, like just running through the point. This fracture is just really beautiful. Hey, take a look at that. Oh yeah, how the light just refracts in there. Really, really pretty. All right, Lisa, put it aside for you. Okay, what do we got next here? We've got a couple interesting ones. This one's actually really cool. I like this one. Let's see if I can actually get it to stand up. No. This is another one of those trapped points. This is very weird. It's it looks like we have one facet here, but the rest was just trapped. I mean, it looks like there was maybe one point growing right here, but it's just really weird. Very strange. We have something interesting going on over here. We have like a really gemmy, citrine kind of like party down here. Let's get a close up there of some of those fractures. Oh yeah. And the color too. I'm just a fan of the color. I mean, take a look at that. How that light shines through. You can even see the silhouette of my finger on the other side. And all those growth lines too. It just adds like another unique element to the stone. Yeah, I've never been a fan of the ones that have been trapped, but I gotta say, after taking a closer look at some of these, they're really kind of cool. I like it. Yeah, see those growth lines there? Yeah, you can tell it was just squeezed in between a bunch of points. Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's hard to find like some chill, kind of cool music to listen to for like streaming. Most of it's like EDM or techno, which I am a fan of. I like that stuff too, but I don't know how that would be with a bunch of crystals. Maybe it would work. Now look at that. It's kind of like a cool little horseshoe shape. That's really neat. You can actually see the outline of the crystal habit right there from the crystal that was shoved in here. That's really neat. You can even see the it's like literally like an impression, right? This was the impression that the larger point had on this. It's very, very neat. All right, I'm going to move on to our next specimen here. This one is another one of those trapped pieces, but it's still pretty. I like it. Kind of cool. It's like massive chunk, right? I would think that some of this material might be good for cutting, but there's a lot of fractures in here, so probably not. Just as like a nice piece though, like if you want to just, I don't know, like a rough point that you could just kind of carry around and put in your purse or kind of put in your bag or your backpack, or I don't know, take it with you somewhere, put it in your car. If you want something that's not super pretty that you're afraid that you'd get messed up, this might be a nice option for you. Again, these are all $12 each. Let's take a closer look at some of these inclusions here though. Oh yeah. Yeah, we got some nice inclusions. Those growth lines almost give the surface a bit of a frosted, like kind of texture. So the light kind of looks dull. It's kind of interesting. I mean, it still comes through, but we have a nice microcrystalline fracture there. We've got some nice light refraction going on right there. That's really pretty. Let's see if we can get a close look at that. Oh yeah, very, very pretty. Nice burnt orange color too. That's like nice citrine color. All right, next we're gonna look at some more. We got some, oh, this one's very pretty. Look at the inclusions in this one. Wow. Take a look at that. Now again, the size, right? The size of the point. These probably took a lot of pressure to make. Because the length of the crystal isn't that long, I'd say that these are like relatively young compared to a lot of other citrine, you know, like larger citrine points. Like for example, the celestial amethyst that we showed earlier, that point was huge, lots of growth lines. So I'd say that that was took a lot longer to grow. But just look how massive the point is, though. I mean, look at those hematite inclusions in there. And they act as a phantom, right? Those hematite inclusions are on the uppermost layer of the citrine. Oh yeah, we even have some nice fracturing in there as well. Kind of do a rotating kind of thing here. There we go. Even looks like a little heart. How cute. This is a very interesting apex here. We have 2 points just kind of apexing very, very close to each other. Yeah, this one's very pretty. Lots of hematite inclusions in this one. A lot of fracturing, so we have lots of rainbows. Let's see how close we can get into this here. Oh yeah, there we go. See, I could just do this all day long. Just look at these. Very pretty. This is probably one of the nicest ones that we have in here too. All right. We'll get some more. This one's very clear. Not a lot of inclusions in this one. Not a lot of fracturing. I would say some of this material might be good for anyone who's into gem cutting. Look at how it just looks like water, right? That main central point in there. Very, very cool. Yeah, I'm a big fan of this one. And take a look at that. Yeah, again, these are all $12 each from Brazil. Our next one here. This one has some more of those hematite inclusions. Take a look there. We have a nice kind of spotted cluster of them there on that face. On this side, you can kind of really get a nice look at them. We have some nice microcrystalline fractures in there, lots of rainbows in this one. Size of the point too. Let's see. Yeah, pretty decent size, right? We can even see that translucency from afar. Look at that. Let's take a closer look here at some of these facets. Got some nice inclusions in there. Let's see if we can get a nice focus. There we go. Very pretty stuff. Yeah, this one, that facet is just gorgeous right there. Very, very pretty. All right, we have 3 more of these left. Okay, let's get through it. We have this nice, cute point. Some hematite crystals on the surface. Inside, we have some more fracturing going on. This would be a nice piece to, like, you know, take with you, like a travel-sized point. So we have a total of 3 points here. 1 here, 1 there, and then 1 over here. So pretty. Yeah, the clarity in these are just phenomenal. All right, this one's really kind of cute. Again, another heart-shaped one. A nice central kind of bud of citrine here at the bottom. And then if we look, we have some interesting fracturing going on. We have some phantoms as well. You can even see those through the point. Very cool. Next and lastly for this flat, we have this guy. We have a couple of these really interesting kind of like buds here of hematite crystals. You can even see them coming through the points. And they're like almost like a druzy. They're kind of sparkly. We have 4 of them here on this side. And nowhere else throughout the specimen. Kind of odd. You can see here, nice clarity, nice fracturing going on. Probably lots of rainbows in the sunlight. Very pretty. Okay. All right, this is our last one for the flat. So I think we have a couple phantom amethysts. I'm going to show a handful, and then that's going to be it for today. Got a lot of stuff here. Went through a lot of stuff too. Alrighty. Just as a reminder for you guys watching this now or as a recorded video on demand later, if there's something that you guys see on the stream that you want, simply just message us, comment, let us know that you want that thing at that time, and then we'll set up an order with you. Okay. So last but not least, we have some phantom amethyst points. These are very pretty. We have quite a few of them. Yes, quite a few. All right, I'm going to pick out the prettiest ones here. So hopefully they meet everyone's approval. A couple here, I think. Yeah, that one's beautiful. This one's beautiful. They're all beautiful. Yeah, picking one is just difficult. I think these will be fine. All right, we got 4 here. Well, so each one, these all came from flats where all of them were the same price. So our last flat, our citrine point flat, all of them were $12 each. These are all $12 each as well. So the ones I'm going to be showing now, these last 4, these are all 12. So as you can see, we got some hematite crystals in there as well. And look at those phantoms. Now all phantoms are just growth lines, right? That's all they are. So we have this nice kind of clear little bit of quartz here, and then moving into that amethyst. See if we can get a close-up here of some of those inclusions. Yeah, we got some nice phantoming going on in there. So see those dark lines up in the right by the facets running parallel along them. Those are your phantoms. Now again, these are all from Brazil. And finding amethyst that's lighter in color like this is pretty uncommon. Most of the time you're going to find that dark purple amethyst. Most of the amethyst in North America hasn't really had a lot of at least the geologic setting that you find it in. You don't see a lot of hydrothermal cooking or alteration. So generally the ones in North America are actually going to be lighter in color. So in where these are found, in Minas, the province in Brazil, there's a lot of interesting geologic stuff going on. Lots of compression, some volcanism, all sorts of things. Yeah, these are definitely very good quality. I really like these. Just the clarity. You can definitely even see that too, because usually the color and inclusions, they're gonna kind of take away from how the light travels through the stone. So seeing that clarity, seeing that light amethyst really helps kind of illuminate everything. This one's really nice too. You have a lot of interesting little hematite splinters just running through here. Remember, amethyst and citrine are both iron rich, so that iron is going to start, kind of clustering in certain areas on the crystal point. Very, very neat. And of course, we can see all of those phantoms in there, right? So usually when the phantoms are very defined like this, that just tells me that you had a very unstable growth period for this crystal, right? The crystal itself just was all over the place when it was growing. Things just were intruding, and for example, maybe you had high iron levels where it's very purple, and then iron levels dropped, and then iron levels rose again, and then all the iron crystallized into hematite. So it's kind of a very interesting story that these tell. This piece is very cool. Again, these are all $12 each. We've got two more here. This one has a lot more of those hematite crystals. Alright, we'll turn the music down a little bit for you. Now, just take a look at that. Very, very cool. Yeah, those hematite crystals really kind of give an added effect to the specimen. Yeah, we might even see some rutile in there as well, but I do think that most of those crystals in there, those dark brownish crystals, are hematite crystals. I do think that those are all hematite. Just as a reminder too, so all of these are going to be recorded, all of our streams are, and they're all uploaded to YouTube, our YouTube channel. So if you want to watch this later, please, if you see something on there, give us a message and we'll get an order set up for you. Alrighty, we'll put this one aside for you. Yeah, these hematite inclusions are just so cool. I really like the inclusions. I think it just gives an added effect to the stone. Alrighty, sounds good, Sarita. Now take a look at those little blossoms there, those little blooms of hematite. This is just really neat. It's like a nice little bouquet of hematite crystals. We get all sorts of them here too. And then also too, that light color really just makes everything else pop out more. It's very cool. Those phantoms as well, you can see those nice defined light purple phantoms. Yeah, and for $12 for a piece like this is I think it's a really good deal. You know, I mean, I say that about all of our stuff anyways, but you know, oftentimes it's interesting to see how much people price things up. Just in the mineral and gem business, it is kind of sad, to be honest. I think that people can make a living selling them for far less than they do at a metaphysical shop, to be honest. I'll show a couple more here. Because, you know, there's only a couple more left to show. Let's get a couple more that are more dark in color. Let's see here. I got this one. This one's kind of a nice one. Yeah, let's do these. So these are a little more purple, a lot more color than the other ones. Alrighty. So here's another one, kind of like a tri-point one, right? Kind of like a trident, not really. Kind of interesting shape. It's almost like it has two little points for ears. We got some nice color in that one, a little bit darker, some nice phantoming as well. Those hematite crystals are also present. Very, very pretty. Yeah, that color in there is just so gorgeous. And just again, the contrast between the light and the dark there is just really nice. Look at that clarity as well. Seeing that especially too in this basically this base matrix quartz, seeing that kind of clarity is not common at all. All of these really exhibit that, which is kind of cool. All right. This one's kind of neat. We have a couple hematite crystals in here. And we have those phantoms outlining every edge of the facet. Just take a look at that refractive index here, right? As I turn the crystal point, look how dark it gets, right? Just the way that the light travels through the crystal. Very, very cool. Yeah, I really like this one. Alrighty, next we're going to look at this one. This one's very clear. Very, very clear. Look at that. It's like ice. Got this nice kind of flat facet at the top. Lots of phantoms. And we can even see that too. Look at all those phantoms right there. Very, very, very cool. Nice defined growth lines as well. Get have a close look here at some of them. So as you can see, looking down through the facet, it's like almost like a window. You can just see my finger on the other side. Very cool. Now look at that refractive index. As I turn it, right, that light travels through the stone, but it's gonna, look at that. Look at that color right there. That refractive index is just amazing. We have a couple hematite crystals in there as well. But yeah, the clarity in some of these points is quite spectacular. Again, these are all $12 each. I'll take a look at that. Oh yeah, very cool. Yeah, this one's really neat. We have those, see those tiny little spots on there? Those are all hematite crystals. This is a nice defined point too. This is like a really, this is a nice quality point, I'd say. This is really nice. Usually you see a lot of points kind of smashed together. This is just, this has one right here, but that's it. That's a pretty stable point right there. So if we can get a nice close-up here of some of these inclusions. Yeah, you can see that rainbow in there. Nice microcrystal and fracture. Very cool. Oh yeah, the color. Look at that. That color is just gorgeous. And those phantoms too. Alrighty. Alright, this one's really cool. We got some nice fracturing as well in this one. It's a little less clear, but the point itself is very translucent, almost like purple water. It's like very alien looking. Look at that. Yeah, those phantoms in there just like outline everything so perfectly. I'm just taking a look at it from this angle too. Oh, absolutely gorgeous. Alright, we have one last piece, and then I think that will be it. Look at this piece. The phantoms in this one are just really cool. Look at that. That's like a thick phantom, too. That's really uncommon. We have a couple hematite crystals in there as well. Lots of phantoming in this one. A lot. See how it looks from this angle too. We got a nice purple color. Look at those phantoms. Just look at those. That is really cool to see. Wow. Alrighty, and just as a last reminder here, if you guys are watching this as a video on demand, either on Twitch or YouTube later on, please let us know if you like anything. If you see something that you like, drop a comment in the comment section, or just message us on Instagram, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, and we will get an order set up for you. Also, too, we have a lovely selection of tumbled stones on our website. We have about 57 different kinds of tumbled stones. If you want some tumbled stones, go on there, check it out. And again, thank you guys for watching and supporting our business. This is really fun for us, and it's hard times, but we're gonna get through it. You know, really appreciate you guys watching, and thank you guys so much for all your continued support. You guys have a beautiful weekend.